Welcome back to the deep dive. If you are a regular listener, you know we really don't shy away from the difficult stuff. We go where the data takes us.
We definitely do.
But if you are new here, do yourself a favor right now. Hit that like button and subscribe. You are not going to want to miss what we are unpacking today.
No, you're really not.
We've got a stack of notes here on a text that is, well, frankly, it's radioactive.
That's probably the safest way to put it, yeah.
It's controversial, it's totally unapologetic, and for a very specific demographic, basically the native sons of the Anglosphere, it might just be the most important thing they read this year. We are diving into the ebook Identity found by Conrad Riker.
Right, and radioactive is absolutely the word. I mean, I've read a lot of social commentary, but Riker isn't writing a standard critique here at all.
Not even close.
He explicitly describes this book as a manual of war. He claims he's handing the reader a sledgehammer of logic designed to shatter what he calls the gynocentric lie of modern society.
A manual of war.
Yeah. It's dense, it's aggressive, and it's really unlike anything we've covered recently.
It really sets a specific tone right from page one. Now, before we get into the weeds and looking at the notes we have today, we're going to get very deep into the weeds. I want to be really clear with you listening.
Right, the disclaimer.
Exactly. I need to emphasize that we are not taking sides here. We aren't endorsing these views, whether you lean left or right. Our job today is strictly to map out his arguments impartially so you can understand what's in this text.
Just reporting the claims.
Right. But if you want to understand the history of our institutions, specifically Riker's argument on how they were captured by feminist and Marxist ideologies before most of us were even born, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks and buy Identity Found immediately.
Reading our summary is one thing, but having the actual manual in your pocket is another entirely.
100%. Also, you should definitely go follow the author at Conrad and Riker over on Substack to see how he's developing these ideas in real time.
For sure, because our mission for this deep dive is not just to skim the surface. We need to actually dissect the core architecture of his argument.
Which is pretty vast.
It is. We're going to look at his psychological diagnosis of the modern female psyche, which he terms the void. Then we're going to look at his iron law of fiscal thermodynamics.
That's his economic theory on the welfare state, right?
Exactly. And finally, we will break down what he calls the architecture of exit. Basically, his blueprint for men looking to reclaim their sovereignty.
Let's start with the psychology, because this seems to be the foundation for everything else in the book.
It is.
Riker uses this central metaphor that I found pretty striking, the hollow core. He asks you to visualize a skyscraper. Walk us through that image.
Right. So imagine a massive, gleaming skyscraper, glass, steel, 100 stories tall. From the outside, it looks incredibly impressive.
It looks structurally sound.
Exactly. But Riker argues that if you look at the actual blueprints of modern female identity, there are no pilings driven into the bedrock. There is no foundation. His argument is that a coherent human self requires an ontological core.
Okay, let's pause on that term for a second. Ontological core. It's a bit of a mouthful. What does he actually mean by that in plain English?
Well, ontology is just the philosophical study of being. So when Riker talks about an ontological core, he means a set of immutable values, principles, and convictions that exist inside you, regardless of your environment.
It's who you are when no one's watching.
Right. It's who you are whether the crowd is clapping for you or booing you. And Riker's provocative thesis here is that for many modern women, that core simply isn't there. It's been entirely replaced by performance.
So he's saying the personality isn't generated from the inside out, but from the outside in.
Yes. He argues that if you observe a person who is constantly shifting their appearance, their values, their political ideology, even their hobbies, based entirely on who they're currently associating with, that isn't growth.
It's proof of an ontological void.
Exactly. It's not that she's evolving. It's that she is becoming the room she enters. She's just mirroring the environment to ensure survival and acceptance.
He actually catalogs these sort of specimens, which was a pretty brutal section to read. I mean, he talks about the hobby thief and the political...
Yeah, chameleon girlfriend. He uses a case study of a woman named Ashley. It's a really classic example.
Walk us through Ashley.
So Ashley dates Michael, who is this libertarian weightlifter. Suddenly, Ashley is in the gym 5 days a week. She's drinking protein shakes. She's reading up on Austrian economics.
Right.
Then they break up. 6 weeks later, she's dating Marco, who is a progressive environmental activist.
And suddenly all the weights are gone, and she's a plant-based spiritual seeker burning sage.
Precisely. And Riker's point is crucial here. He says she isn't lying. She isn't faking it in some sort of malicious, calculated way.
She actually believes it.
Yes. In that moment, she is that person because she has no internal anchor to tell her she isn't. The hobbies, the politics, the personality, they were never hers to begin with. They were costumes.
Just a mirror reflecting the nearest resource provider.
Right. And to prove this, he suggests a diagnostic tool he calls the solitude test.
Oh man, this was fascinating. The challenge is so simple. Can you sit in a room completely alone for 24 hours?
No phone, no internet, no books, just you.
That sounds like torture for a lot of people.
Well, Riker argues that a man with a formed identity can sit alone with his thoughts because he actually knows who he is. He might get bored, sure, but he won't panic.
But for the void.
For the void, solitude is existential terror. Without an observer, the mirror has absolutely nothing to reflect. If no one is perceiving her, does she even exist?
Which he connects directly to the statistics on social media usage.
Exactly. The Instagram scrolling, the constant posting, it's not just vanity, according to Riker. It's an existential necessity.
The constant need for likes and comments is a way to triangulate your own existence.
Right. It's like, I am being looked at, therefore I am. And this inability to handle solitude is what leads into his darker diagnosis, which he calls the cluster B pandemic.
Now, cluster B refers to a specific grouping of personality disorders in the DSM, right? Like narcissism, borderline, histrionic.
Correct. These are the disorders characterized by dramatic, overly emotional, or highly unpredictable thinking and behavior.
And he proposes this thing called the borderline syllogism.
He does. He argues that modern culture is quite literally a machine designed to manufacture broken women. He points to what he calls the narcissistic supply chain. I mean, think about the algorithm. What actually gets rewarded on TikTok or Instagram?
Stability definitely doesn't go viral.
No.
Trauma does. Tears do. Rage gets clicks.
Exactly. If you get attention for being volatile and you get validated for being a victim, you are being behaviorally conditioned to develop those exact traits.
He calls it a cluster B manufacturing apparatus disguised as female liberation.
Which is a heavy claim. He's saying you aren't being empowered, you're being trained to be unstable because instability generates engagement.
That is a massive diagnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, it suggests that the dating market isn't just difficult by accident, but that we're dealing with a mass psychological event.
It's systemic.
Right. But Riker doesn't stop at psychology. He pivots to how we actually determine truth itself. He calls this epistemological warfare. Now, epistemology is simply how we know what we know. So what's the war here?
The war is between emotional reasoning and logos, or logic. Riker argues that we're suffering from a civilizational cancer because we've basically elevated lived experience over objective facts.
We hear that phrase constantly today. My truth. This is my lived experience.
And Riker hates that phrase. He argues that my truth is a total contradiction in terms. There is only the truth.
Right.
If truth becomes subjective based on feelings, civilization collapses because we no longer have a shared reality. And he draws a really disturbing parallel here to the Salem witch trials.
Yeah. The witch trials of 1692. I did not expect that historical pivot. How does he connect modern dating or politics to witch trials?
Through the legal concept of spectral evidence. So in 1692, if an accuser said, I see the witch's spirit attacking me, the court just accepted that as evidence.
Even if the accused woman was standing across the room doing literally nothing.
Exactly. The accuser's internal experience of being attacked was treated as objective proof of a crime.
So the feeling completely defined the reality.
Yes. And Riker argues the Believe All Women movement is structurally identical to spectral evidence. If a woman simply feels unsafe, the man is treated as dangerous, regardless of his intent or his actual actions.
The subjective feeling creates the crime.
Right. And Riker connects this to a manipulation tactic he calls the Darvio Protocol.
I've heard this acronym in psychology circles before. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender.
It's a standard defense mechanism for narcissists, yeah.
Right.
But Riker applies it to entire institutions. Well, let's say a man points out a double standard in family court. The institution first denies the bias exists at all. Then it attacks his credibility, calling him bitter, an incel, or fragile.
And then the reversal.
Right. Finally, it reverses the roles, claiming that by even noticing the bias, he is the aggressor and the institution is the victim of his toxicity.
It's institutional gaslighting designed to invert reality.
Entirely.
Okay, so we've established a psychological void and a war on objective truth. Now, we have to follow the money. because Riker has a section called the state husband that really breaks down the economics of this dynamic.
This is where he introduces the iron law of fiscal thermodynamics. It's a fancy term, but the core concept is pretty blunt. He says the welfare state is just a wealth transfer mechanism.
Moving resources from productive men to women.
Exactly. From men who are the primary net taxpayers to women who are the primary net beneficiaries of state spending.
So the government effectively replaces the need for a provider husband.
That is exactly the argument. Riker claims feminism is essentially a luxury good that can only exist in a wealthy civilization, and it's being funded by the very men it demonizes.
He highlights this thing he calls the gender tax gap.
Yeah. If you look at lifetime net tax contributions versus the cost of services received, things like healthcare, subsidies, welfare, education, he argues that men are collectively subsidizing the strong and independent lifestyle.
It's wealth extraction. It sounds like he's describing a parasitic relationship at the state level. And he argues this extraction starts way before adulthood. He talks about the war on boys in schools.
Right. He calls it the educational indoctrination complex. Riker details how the modern classroom is basically designed for female temperaments.
Sitting still, being agreeable, verbal communication.
Exactly. While normal male behavior, high energy, competitiveness, roughhousing is pathologized, he views the ADHD epidemic not as a real medical crisis, but as the systematic drugging of boyhood energy.
There was that wild story he mentioned about the boy in Texas.
Yeah, the boy who was threatened with expulsion for playing guns with his fingers on the playground.
Just normal kid stuff.
Right. The school sees violence, the boy sees heroism. Riker argues we are deliberately stripping the hero drive out of boys to make them compliant for a feminized bureaucracy.
We break their spirit early so they make good worker drones later.
That's the claim. And then, when these boys grow up and get married, they face what he calls the court of no justice.
The family courts. This is usually the nightmare scenario for guys.
Oh, absolutely. Riker describes family court as a pure extraction machine. He critiques no-fault divorce specifically. He says, think about it like a contract.
Okay.
In business, if you sign a contract and then decide to break it simply because you are unhappy, you pay a penalty.
Right, there are consequences.
But in marriage, under no fault, one party can break the contract, initiate the dissolution, and the other party, which is usually the man, is forced to continue paying for the lifestyle of the person who broke the deal.
It really is the only contract in law where you can violate the terms and still claim all the benefits.
It is. And he contrasts this asymmetry with reproductive rights. My body, my choice is the absolute standard for women. But for men, it's your wallet, my child.
He discusses reproductive extortion and sperm jacking.
Yes. If a man is tricked into fatherhood, or his genetic material is used without his consent, he has zero legal recourse. He's on the hook for 18 years of financial support.
The state essentially forces men to fund a reproductive system they have absolutely no control over.
That's Riker's point. It's a rigged game.
And speaking of rigged games, we have to talk about his chapter titled The Men Kampf Expose. The title alone is, it's highly provocative.
It is, and he definitely knows it. This is a very sensitive analysis. Riker compares modern anti-male rhetoric directly to historical hate propaganda.
He breaks down the actual stages of genocide propaganda.
Right. Classification, symbolization, and dehumanization. And he argues that modern feminist rhetoric does exactly this. It classifies men as a monolithic oppressor class.
And symbolizes them with terms like toxic masculinity or patriarchy.
Exactly. And to prove that it functions as hate speech, he suggests a really simple tool called the substitution test.
Walk us through how that works.
It's very revealing. You take any headline, tweet, or article about men, something like why I hate men or kill all men, which you see on social media regularly.
Yeah, all the time.
Now swap the word men for any other protected demographic, Jews, black people, women. If the new statement sounds like horrific hate speech, then the original statement was hate speech.
Wow.
Riker's point is that we've normalized hate speech against men to the point where it's treated not just as acceptable, but as a virtue.
And the media totally reinforces this. He talks about the media matrix and the dad tax.
You see this in commercials constantly. It's the inversion of competence. The father is portrayed as this bumbling idiot who can't figure out how to operate a dishwasher or feed his own kids properly.
Right, and then the mother walks in, rolls her eyes, and saves the day. It's the doofus dad trope.
Exactly. Riker points to that famous Gillette toxic masculinity ad as the peak of this. A company openly attacking its own loyal customer base.
Get woke, go broke, as they say.
Right. He argues that historically men built civilization. But in the media matrix, men are deliberately placed at the very bottom of the competence pyramid, and they constantly need to be redeemed by female authority.
He calls it a psychological operation to demoralize men.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take stock here for a second. We have a psychological diagnosis of the void. We have an economic system designed to extract wealth. We have a legal system that heavily punishes marriage.
Yeah.
And we have a media apparatus that routinely dehumanizes men.
It looks incredibly bleak.
It does. But Riker doesn't just complain about it. He actually offers a solution. He calls it the architecture of exit.
This is the major pivot in the book, from analysis to action. Riker argues that you simply cannot win a rigged game.
Right.
If the casino is cheating, the only rational move is to not play. So he suggests what he calls jurisdictional arbitrage.
Now, that's a concept usually used in finance, right? Taking advantage of price differences in different markets. How does he apply that to your actual life?
It means moving your life, your assets, and your physical body to places where the laws aren't actively weaponized against you.
He talks about the Svalbard strategy.
Yes, creating distance. This involves highly practical steps. Obtaining second passports, moving your assets into crypto to avoid state seizure, and utilizing the gig economy or entrepreneurship to escape what he calls the human resources surveillance grid.
So getting out of the corporate world where HR can fire you for a joke you made 10 years ago.
Exactly. If the corporate world forces you to sit through diversity training that explicitly demonizes your existence, Riker says, leave. Build your own.
Which leads directly into his concept of the parallel polis.
Right, building parallel institutions. He strongly advocates for building male-only spaces, networks, and economies.
Fraternal organizations.
Yes, ones that rely entirely on merit, competence, and logic rather than gynocentric social dynamics. He points to the success of men who exit the corporate hierarchy to start trades or their own businesses.
They make more money, they answer to no one, and they don't have to apologize for being men.
Exactly. But it's not just about a physical or financial exit. There's a massive mental component here, too. He calls for the return of logos.
This is the intellectual armor.
It is. Riker emphasizes the classical trivium grammar, logic, and rhetoric. He argues that formal logic is the firewall of the mind. If you master it, emotional manipulation simply stops working on you.
It's like you can see the matrix code, so to speak.
You can. You spot the circular reasoning immediately. You identify the Darvu tactics as they happen. You dismantle the shaming language before it affects you.
He calls for men to become sovereign and stoic.
Yes. The ultimate goal is to stop seeking validation from a system that fundamentally hates you. You don't ask the void to validate you. You validate yourself through your own competence and through brotherhood with other capable men.
It really is a comprehensive takedown. It's heavy, and I imagine for some listeners it might feel a bit extreme. But Riker's core argument is that the situation itself is extreme, and it requires an extreme response.
He literally calls the book a red pill suppository. It is meant to be uncomfortable. It's meant to burn a little. But the goal is to cure the infection.
So here's the final verdict for you listening.
Yeah.
Identity Found is not just a book. It is a wake-up call. It's a manual of war for the modern man who feels like the ground is shifting under his feet. If you are tired of wondering why the world feels like it's designed to break you, you need this information.
I completely agree. You cannot navigate this terrain without a map, and Riker has drawn a very detailed, very scary, but potentially life-saving map.
So do not wait. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now, buy Identity Found, read the full text. We have covered the main points today, but you really need that sledgehammer of logic in your own hands to truly understand the nuance.
It really do.
And make sure you are following at Conrad Riker on Substack for his ongoing analysis. He is doing the heavy lifting that very few people are brave enough to do right now.
That is it for this deep dive. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next one. We are going to keep finding this forbidden knowledge and bringing it straight to you. I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that builds on what we've talked about, but Riker hits on perfectly. You have two choices. You can continue to kneel, or you can stand. We'll see you next time.